What if the real killer isn't even on trial? That's the explosive question at the heart of the Karen Reid case, a case that's dividing a town and forcing us to ask what really happened to John O'Keefe. Welcome to Law and People, where we shine a light on wrongful convictions and explore the often overlooked human side of criminal justice. In this episode, we'll reconstruct the timeline of events, break down the key arguments from both sides, and evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the case to determine who has the stronger path to victory. Let's start with Karen Reid and what she is accused of doing. On January 29, 2022, during a snowstorm in Canton, Massachusetts, Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found dead outside a fellow officer's home. Prosecutors allege that his girlfriend, Karen Reid, struck him with her Lexus SUV during a three-point turn, then left him in the snow, leading to his death from blunt force trauma and hypothermia. Karen Reid is charged with second-degree murder, vehicular manslaughter, and leaving the scene of a fatal accident. She has pleaded not guilty, and her defence is that she's been framed for a crime she did not commit. To understand this case, let's walk through the timeline of events. Early on January 28, 2022, texts between Reid and O'Keefe showed escalating tension. She was emotionally distressed and their relationship appeared strained. That night, the couple visited two bars before heading towards a party at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Reid says she didn't go in because she felt unwell, but she did drop off O'Keefe and drove away. Sometime between 12:30 and 1 a.m, prosecutors allege Reid hit O'Keefe while turning her SUV, alleging that she drove off, leaving him in sub-freezing temperatures. There were a range of post-midnight texts from Reid to O'Keefe, including, "I'm going home, see you later, your kids are home alone, I'm back in Mansfield." Prosecutors see these all as indicators of guilt. The defence says they show concern and confusion by Reid. At 12:36, Reid's phone connects to O'Keefe's home Wi-Fi, placing her in the vicinity. On the morning of January 29, after multiple failed attempts to reach O'Keefe, Reid returns to the party location with friends Jennifer McCabe and Carrie Roberts. Between 5:35 and 6 a.m, O'Keefe's body is discovered on the lawn, covered in snow. Witnesses say Reid was hysterical, repeatedly asking, "Did I hit him?" before saying later, "I hit him." At 6:37, the police arrived. At 6:47, O'Keefe was taken to hospital, and then by 7:50 a.m, he was pronounced dead. Police note a cracked taillight and snow inside Reid's SUV. Taillight shards are found near O'Keefe's body, along with a shoe. At 9:03, police carry out alcohol testing and they find that Reid's blood alcohol concentration is 0.093, and this exceeds the legal limit. The prosecution likely back calculated to estimate Reid's intoxication level at the time of the accident. On February 1, 2022, Reid is arrested and charged in connection with the death of John O'Keefe. With the timeline in mind, let's now have a look at the prosecution's case and how they constructed it and why they believe Karen Reid is guilty. Prosecutors argue that fragments of Reid's taillight found near O'Keefe's body directly link her SUV to the fatal impact. And if forensics confirm that the shards match her vehicle and no evidence of tampering has occurred, this could be a compelling detail that reinforces their claim that Reid struck O'Keefe and then fled. While the taillight fragments are crucial evidence, their credibility depends on forensic examination and verification. The prosecution will cite two eyewitnesses, Jennifer McCabe and Katie McLaughlin, who claim Reid repeatedly said, "I hit him," upon discovering O'Keefe's body, arguing that this statement serves as a self-incriminating admission of guilt. However, the defence may counter by suggesting Reed's words were misinterpreted due to the shock of the situation or the emotional distress she was experiencing, and this would certainly cast doubt on the prosecution's case. Further, the prosecution's argument could lose credibility if evidence is presented by the defence alleging that McCabe and McLaughlin were under the influence of alcohol. The state points to Reed's drinking that night and her series of erratic messages, angry voicemails to O'Keefe as evidence of impaired judgment. They argue that intoxication may have led her to behave in a reckless manner. While Reed's blood alcohol content was above the legal limit, the defence may argue that intoxication alone does not prove criminal behaviour or even an accident, and that such evidence is being used to inflame rather than inform. Prosecutors use cell phone data such as Wi-Fi pings, text message timestamps, and Google searches to establish Reed's movements and repeated attempts to contact O'Keefe. By placing her near the scene, they argue she was aware of the incident and may have tried to control the narrative afterwards. While this evidence may bolster the prosecution's narrative, the defence may challenge its reliability, offering an alternate explanation for Reed's phone activity. They could argue that Reed felt concern for O'Keefe rather than the feeling of guilt as the motivating force behind her calls. The prosecution also claimed that John O'Keefe never entered the house, citing iPhone data as key evidence. They argue that no credible witness or supporting proof backs the defence's theory that O'Keefe was assaulted indoors. Instead, they maintain that all reliable evidence points to Karen Reed as the perpetrator. However, the defence may challenge the accuracy of digital tracking and argue that device data alone isn't definitive proof and could be misinterpreted or maybe even incomplete. The state maintains there is no evidence that O'Keefe ever entered the house, and his injuries are consistent with being struck by a car. Reed had the motive, the means and the opportunities, and her statements after finding O'Keefe support the theory she is guilty. The case will hinge on whether the jury believes these points are conclusive or just simply circumstantial. Now let's examine the defence's counter-narrative. Reed's attorneys claim she was being framed to protect others, arguing O'Keefe was assaulted inside the home, possibly by a dog or during a conflict with others, before being left outside. The alleged bias in the investigation suggests law enforcement, paramedics, and others conspired to conceal the truth, with individuals inside the house, including police officers, playing a key role in O'Keefe's death and shifting the blame to Reed. However, without direct eyewitness testimony or forensic proof of this scenario, it remains simply a theory. But if jurors believe there was a cover-up, it could create significant doubt. The defence highlighted injuries to O'Keefe's arms and hand, claiming they are more consistent with a physical fight or dog bites than being struck by a vehicle. Their experts disputed the medical examiner's conclusions. But I think the strength of this argument really depends on how convincingly expert witnesses present their findings and whether the jury trusts the defence's medical analysis over the prosecution's forensics. If the wounds seem ambiguous or open to interpretation, it could create doubt and benefit Reed's case. Reed's team claim that the taillight shards were planted. They argue that the damage to her SUV may have occurred prior to the night in question, potentially in unrelated circumstances, and that the taillight fragments were planted to support a false narrative. But if they can challenge the chain of custody or show inconsistencies in evidence collection, this could unravel the prosecution's narrative. The defence challenges Jennifer McCabe's credibility, arguing that Reed's statement was not a confession but a panic question misinterpreted in the chaos and emotion of the moment. The defence's success here really depends on how well they challenge McCabe's credibility and reframe Reed's statement. If jurors see it as a misinterpretation, it may cast reasonable doubt on the case, weakening the prosecution's case. But if the prosecution convinces them it was a direct admission of guilt, it strengthens the argument that Reed is responsible. The defence argues that O'Keefe's phone data suggests he entered the house contradicting the state's version of events. If the jury believes this, it opens the door to the defence's theory that the assault happened inside. If the defence are able to convincingly argue that O'Keefe was assaulted indoors, it becomes a pivotal moment in Reed's favour. The defence went on to emphasise there were no eyewitnesses who saw Reed hit O'Keefe. They argue the case is built entirely on circumstantial evidence and it does not rise to the standard of proving guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Instead, they claim the evidence against her is either unreliable or deliberately fabricated. Circumstantial evidence is a challenge for the prosecution because it lacks definitive proof of guilt. If the defence effectively weakens the prosecution's case while strengthening their own, it could shift the trial in favour of Reed. Finally, public opinion has played a major role in shaping this case. Online forums, protests and videos like this have raised awareness and suspicion about the investigation. The defence has used this to their advantage, pointing to the intense scrutiny as further evidence of misconduct. While jurors are instructed to ignore outside opinions, widespread media coverage can influence how people interpret the facts. The first trial ended in a hung jury, a sign that the prosecution could not convince all 12 jurors. Now, with a retrial underway, the outcome remains very uncertain. The question isn't just whether Karen Reed did it, but whether the prosecution can prove her case beyond a reasonable doubt. This is despite the defence's claims of cover-up, planted evidence, and flawed forensics. The stakes couldn't be higher, and in our next episode we'll break down the grand jury proceedings and any new developments that could change the outcome of this case. So hit the like, subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on what comes next. And tell us in the comments, is Karen Reed a killer or is she being made a scapegoat to protect something far more disturbing? Well, that's it for now. And until next time, take care.